We're here today with Vila, Loukas, who is a certified teacher, guide, and healer with the Modern Mystery Schools. And just wanted to talk to her a little bit about what exactly the mystery schools are and kind of go from there. So what is?
What is a mystery school?
Yes.
So mystery school, the term basically refers to any body of knowledge that has been kept apart from the sort of mainstream or the open consciousness. And so mystery schools have existed throughout history, all over the world. And the purpose is really to protect a certain, as I said, body of knowledge. So certain tools, certain methods, certain teachings that are particularly potent, that are particularly powerful to a specific end, and making sure that they are kept in a way that is going to work well. So, in some parts of history, in some areas of the world, there might be mystery schools that work with specific styles of teaching, in specific cultural references, so knowing how to do certain kinds of things in a certain kind of way to a particular end. And so the point is that in order to be able to access that knowledge and information, you would need to be initiated into the school or the tradition or the group in order to receive that information.
And so why would somebody want to look into the mystery schools?
Well, usually it's because there's some level of feeling like I want more, like I'm searching for something. There's something deeper. There's something there. They can sense it, right? They can sense, that there's either, power for me to access that I haven't understood about myself, or, ways that I can work that are going to work better than what's happening for me now, or things that I'm supposed to do in my life that I want to open up and start to be able to bring to fruition.
How many mystery schools are there? Because if you kind of read a lot, you hear about about mystery schools throughout history and texts and.
Yeah, I don't really know how many there are. All when it's all said and done, there's a lot of. The term gets used to refer to these days. When people are approaching mysteries and are studying mysteries, and they're like, oh, we have a mystery school. And so it's not exactly the same thing as a traditional mystery school. A traditional mystery school means that it comes through an actual lineage, so that there's an oral tradition of handing down of the methods, of the initiations, of the tradition of it.
And how old are some of the handing down of the traditions?
So ancient. So the Modern Mystery School is one of 7 ancient mystery schools, and so and the structure of the school goes back at least 3,000 years. So our lineage is anchored by King Solomon. And King Solomon did some very specific things. He was a very unique individual. He had tremendous vision. Like, he understood a lot about the overall trajectory of human consciousness and like what we're here to do as a human race, and the progression of the human race. And so he understood that there was going to be this period of time on the planet, which is actually right now, where there was going to be a giant jump in consciousness of the human race. And so part of what Solomon did was he anchored and organized the mystery school tradition at that point 3,000 years ago, to make it such that there would be this opportunity now for this time that we actually refer to as no more secrets, where things that have been kept secret are now coming to the open. Things that would have been kept, more hidden are now actually are much more available to anybody who's looking. And the reason for that is it's needed. it's time. People, it needs to be more the norm for people to have access to this esoteric information, to have access to tools that they can work with, energetic tools that are going to help them actualize themselves. I think the key phrase in mystery school traditions, in the ancient mystery school traditions specifically, is know thyself. And so, the methods that we work with in the mystery school tradition are all about how can you access more of what you have within you and understand your own potential and understand what it means to master that potential and really do what you are specifically here to do, your unique life purpose.
So it's just like putting an accelerator and putting you on the right track and
yes,
boom, go.
Yes, an accelerator, an amplifier, a way to be making quantum leaps. That's a huge piece of it, because a lot of the mindset of most of humanity is to be moving in a very linear kind of here's this step, here's this step, here's this step, and if where I want to go is there, I have to keep doing this to get there. Well, that's not necessarily the case, right? There's a lot of different ways to get there. You can pop, you can jump, you can skip, you can
quantum leap.
Exactly. So but if all you've ever known and all you've ever been taught is this just step by step by step, then that's probably all you'll ever do. And so, kind of circling back around to your question about, how would people find it or how would they know to look? It's that sense of like, I can feel there's something more. I can feel that I'm supposed to get there, and and I don't understand the how, but I just want to jump. And that's when, that leap of faith, saying like, I want to cross this barrier or part the veil, so to speak, to get beyond what I, the knowledge that I have here, to find something more, something deeper, something.
And you said tools, and what do you mean? Like, is this kind of a grabbing things from different cultures and different religions, or like what would my kind of the mixture be?
Yes. So we work with a lot of different energetic tools. So the Modern Mystery School has the lineage. So our tradition going back to the time of King Solomon. Solomon did amazing things. So cool about what Solomon did was he bonded together, these tribes and groups from all over the planet, and they cross-trained one another. And so, what he was wanting to find was, what are the modalities, what are the methods that work for everybody across the board? And so that became, the standard principle for what would constitute, part of the mystery school lineage, is the tools that work across the board, regardless of where you're from, regardless of, what you've been taught, regardless of, your genetic makeup or geographic location. So with that, we have in our toolbox, tools that do come through the Tibetan tradition, or, energetic tools or rituals that are very much, Christian in their origin. And they're part of our toolbox because they work. They're part of our toolbox because they're powerful and they get the job done. And that's kind of what we collect, is like, what are the things that are going to actually do what needs to be done, because there's big work to be done on planet Earth right now, and we want the tools that are going to get it done.
And so before, were we just not ready as a species to handle this kind of information?
Yeah, so these, Rudolf Steiner, he's an initiate in this lineage, and, he did a lot of amazing writing, and he wrote about these, epochs of time, these eras of human history. And each era has root races that were the people of that era. And each kind of group had a specific job to do in helping move the planet forward in its progression of the human race. And so we're at the point where it's like it's all coming together. So the job of the previous generation, so the root race that's here, there's a couple of root races that are present on the planet right now, the indigos being one of them. You've heard of that. Their job is to is to be system busters, is to bring about a new paradigm, a new way of operating. The job of the fifth root race, which is before just the group just prior to the indigos, was basically to be preparing the way for when the indigos would show up and have, be really anchoring this new level of consciousness and allow for that springboard of it all. So it wasn't quite time before now. There was sprinklings, little bit, people here and there that might be anchoring some of those higher frequency levels of consciousness. But now it's like it needs to be everywhere. It needs to be popped up on all these places so we can, carry everybody forward.
And then what do you mean by forward? What leap are we trying to make as a species?
Well, yeah. So the mystery school tradition, we often refer to it as this return to Shambhala. So in the Tibetan folklore, they talk about Shambhala as the original place of peace and prosperity. In Christian terminology, it might be referred to as the Garden of Eden. All these prophecies in different religious traditions talk about this time that humanity is going to enter this time of peace and prosperity, where there's no more war, no more fighting and disease in the way that we've been experiencing it. And so right now we seem so far from that, right? We're like, what?
Yeah.
Disease off the charts, wars all over the place. So that the leap in consciousness is to a place where we as individuals and we collectively no longer choose the way of violence or the way of illness or the way of just lower level density. We choose that higher frequency.
And is it a matter of time till we reach that? Is it a time thing, or is it a yes and no, or combination of both?
It's all of the above. So yes, it's time, but it's also a choice.
And if we make the wrong choices, are we doomed?
Are we doomed? I mean,
it's hard to say. I mean, it's when you're a light worker.
Personally, I mean, I feel like it is ingrained in all of us that we're going to do it. And I feel like that's what's programmed into our DNA. And so, that's kind of the big thrust at this moment is like the more of us can, awaken our DNA, we can awaken that sense of like, oh, we don't have to do it this way. There is another option. We can make a different choice. We can let go of all that other stuff and we can just right now, right here, right now, be a different person, live a different life, have a different reality. That is absolutely possible. But we are limited by what we believe to be true. So we don't think like I can just do that. And so we have this conditional thinking. Well, first I have to do this, and then I have to be this, and under this right circumstances, and then this, and then this. That conditional thinking is what keeps us back. So to have the mind open, to have the world of understanding and possibility opened up, which is what the mystery school tools offer, means we can in a given moment just drop all the history, drop all of the conditions, and make a different choice.
Do you think that what's going on in the world right now has to do with this transformation?
Absolutely. I think the current circumstances, especially with, I think COVID being so unexpected, coming out of the blue, taking so many people by surprise, it's really changed the way we do a lot. And I don't think anybody could have imagined, that the workforce didn't need to go to work anymore. Like what? Yeah. We can work from home, and and a lot of things can still happen in a pretty good way from that perspective. Never would have imagined that. Never would have imagined, what it was like to slow down, and how many people I've talked to. So many people who've said, I don't know how I was doing it before because I realized I'm not, I wasn't sleeping the way I needed to, I wasn't eating the way I was needed to, and this pause point has totally shifted how we understand what's important. So I think there's more of that coming, and I think it's going to likely be as unexpected as this has been, you know, where you just couldn't possibly foresee it or imagine, you know, what kind of an impact it would make and how it would change our thinking.
Absolutely. So if somebody were interested in the modern mystery schools, tell me a little bit about how that would work. Like, they find the school, they call, match you up with somebody.
Yeah. So exactly. So somebody's interested in, you know, having a deeper connection to who they truly are, wanting to get on track with life purpose, then, and, you know, finds the Modern Mystery School. There are, the Modern Mystery School certifies practitioners as life activation practitioners, as healers, as guides, as teachers of, you know, of these modalities and these methods. And so if you're interested, you would, you know, find a practitioner who's certified through the school, and the place you always begin is a life activation session.
Yeah, and explain that.
So life activation is an amazing one-of-a-kind session. So it's a one-on-one individual. You set up an appointment time, usually, you know, about an hour, hour and a half session, and we do a whole bunch of stuff in that period of time. But the most important thing is it literally turns on your DNA. It's a DNA activation, and it's like flipping switches. And so DNA information that's been there but just been kind of asleep, it gets woken up. And what that means is all of a sudden, you know, parts of yourself that you didn't have full access to now come online. And more of, you know, those gifts, those talents, those passions, those interests, those capacities. And sometimes it's subtle at first, and then it tends to gain momentum over time. And really what happens is it helps you align with what you're really here to do. So what is really good and true and right for you. And so as that DNA, those switches get flipped, all of a sudden it's easier to make choices in alignment with what you're here to do. Opportunities, synchronicities, things start lining up. It's easier to overcome obstacles, especially in the world of health, or, you know, so whether it's overcoming an illness, a chronic issue, or dealing with things that are, you know, more current challenges that you know, haven't been able to necessarily get past. So looking for a breakthrough, life activation is a great place to start for that.
And then there's also, after the life activation, then it's the spiritual activation.
Yes. So there's a series of activations that we work with in the Modern Mystery School. The two biggies to begin with as individual sessions are the life activation and then the full spirit activation. And so those of us that are practitioners often will offer both. And so it's great to set up one and then the next. And the way I like to explain the difference between the two, or why it's helpful to have both, is the life activation is really focused on helping bring more of that vertical energy, so more energy from spirit down into the physical, and to light it up from the inside out. The full spirit activation is more about allowing your, you know, more of this kind of horizontal energy, more of the interface between your external input coming in and your internal navigation. So like being able to perceive really helps open up your psychic senses and turns on your intuition and your sense of what's the next thing for me to be doing. A great story of, you know, a client who came through one time for a full spirit activation, and it just kick-started her intuition big time. And she said she was walking down the street just running some errands, and all of a sudden she was like, I need to go over here. I need to turn left. And she was like, I don't know why I need to turn left, but she's like, okay. She turned left and walked down the street, and her parents were sitting at a at a table at a restaurant having lunch. And you know, she got to go say hi to her parents.
Wow, that's so amazing.
She had no idea they were there, but it was just like, I just feel like I need to go this way. And so just things like that, where, you know, why shouldn't we be able to know energetically that our parents are right around the corner, and that's, you know, the kind of capacity that turns on that and much else with something like a
How long
full
have you
spirit
been
activation.
doing this?
I have been a practitioner, let's see, I became a life activation practitioner with the Modern Mystery School in 2007. So 13 years.
Wow. And are there misconceptions that I think need to be cleared up about the mystery schools? Because sometimes, I've certainly read about them and come across them in history books, and I think they're kind of cults. Like in my old thinking was that there was, why did it have to be so secret? Why, what was it cult-like? Was it, Knights of Templar? Is it the, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Humans, we love our drama. And, so anything that's secretive is, can be viewed with skepticism and fear. And so, and especially when we're talking about things that have to do with power and
spirituality.
Yeah, because it's unknown. It's a mystery. I don't understand it. And so, and the thing is, here's the main thing to know about, mystery school initiation and mystery school work is that it's work. You work on yourself. It's not like you have something bestowed upon you and all of a sudden, I'm now a realized being and it's all peaches and cherries. That's not it. It's about that internal drive and that desire to I want to be a better person and I want to do the work I need to do to get there. And so that means confronting my shadows. That means releasing my baggage. That means, learning how to be victorious over the negative ego. That's work. So people that, tend to come to the mystery schools and view it with skepticism or with fear, are usually people who don't want to do the work. And so, but those who've come in and, engaged and understand what the work is and how the tools, because it helps you get your ground. It helps you engage and fully connect. So many people on right now, especially on the planet, we're not, are not fully grounded, not fully in our bodies, not fully utilizing our capacities. So the mystery school tools help bring more of you online and get you here in your body and get you expanded in your crown to access spiritual frequencies and to understand how to use your psychic senses, all for the purpose of getting to know yourself, of mastering yourself.
And isn't it also a service?
Totally. Because as you're doing that work, you're setting a new pattern. You're setting a new pattern for yourself and the people around you. You help, even when you come to a life activation, because it works with the genetic material, it actually is working your genetic line. It's going to activate, it's going to help clear the genetic line 7 generations back and forward.
So you said, interestingly, when I did my life activation, you said it's going to start affecting people around you. And I think it really did. And the other thing that you said that absolutely came true is you said, pay attention to the people who notice a difference in you after. And there are 3 or 4 people that said something like, what did you do different? What did, they couldn't put their, and those are the people that I really pay attention to, because I do think that they would be great for this. Their switches were already, turned on. So,
well, and here's the thing, at this point, where we're at on the planet, everybody needs a life activation. It's prescribed across the board. Everybody. There's nobody where it would be no, I think, you're good, or you're not ready. No, everybody. Kids, animals, right? We were talking about activating your dog. I've activated, it's one of my great joys to be activating children. I love doing it. I just got to do another round with some kids, as young as 6, and just to get to see them go through the developmental process, having more access to what they have within them. It's wonderful. So, but at any age, through the aging process, people that are starting to get older and lose capacity in their physicality and, need to find new ways to operate. Activation is fantastic for that.
But you can still do some of the classes that you offer without being activated, like the sacred geometry and the
Spiritual intuition.
yes, the spiritual intuition. That'd be kind of a
Absolutely.
nice little taster to see if it's something that you are interested in, or it's for you, or
Definitely, definitely. I love offering spiritual intuition as an introduction to what is the mystery school and what is this work about, because it is very personal. It's very personal, but it is, like you were saying, it is service to the greater good, because when you, and even I love that description you were saying about people noticing, because when you start changing how you operate, then other people are like, oh wait, you mean you can just do that? You can just change how you're doing stuff? And like, well, she did it, then I can do it.
right.
And that makes it's a beautiful ripple effect. And so the more people we have that doing that in different arenas, the more we can really affect this global change.
Great. And there's nobody in Denver right now. You fly out from Portland.
Seattle.
I mean, Seattle. And then, will there be more activities here?
Definitely.
Couple months.
Yeah, it's definitely coming online. So there's a number of us that do travel in. I have a couple of other colleagues that have been coming in. And there's definitely conversations about like it's time to get stuff going in Colorado.
Yeah, I think this area, Denver and Boulder, would be so into it. So because your big centers are North California, Minneapolis, Austin, Boston. I noticed you guys have a lot of great classes in Boston, and then you have classes all over the world.
Yes.
Like, it's amazing. Like Estonia, England, a lot in England.
Yeah.
You mentioned there were 7 mystery schools. Where are they all located?
Yeah, so the 7 ancient mystery schools, so those are all date back to the time of Solomon and how this bigger vision that I was mentioning earlier about, bringing this shift to human consciousness. So the 7 ancient mystery schools actually function like the chakra system of the planet. So they anchor particular frequencies of energy that the human race needs for our development. So the crown chakra mystery school is Tibet. So that's the head of all of the 7 mystery schools. Then there's a mystery school in Japan, ancient mystery school there, that is the third eye chakra. There's one, the mystery school in the United Kingdom is the throat chakra. And then the heart chakra is the modern mystery school, so the North American school, which is now all over the world, but the anchor point of the energy is in North America. And then the solar plexus is the school from Australia, the Australian mystery school. The Hara is the Romanian mystery school. And then the root chakra is the Central African mystery school.
The other schools are still...
They're closed.
They're closed.
Yeah, so meaning you wouldn't be able to find them. So the modern mystery school is an open school, meaning we can advertise. We can say, hey, this is us, this is what we do. Those other schools are still functioning, but they are underground, so you couldn't find them.
You can't find them. And do you find that you don't really, I mean, you guys don't advertise, but people seek you out? Like me, for instance, looked at people that I loved what they were doing and saying, and then I went back to see where they had done their training in it. And there's so many people that have been trained by you, and that's how I found you guys. And is that kind of how most people find you? Because I love the fact that you don't need to advertise. People seek you out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of both, for sure. And yeah, I mean, it is very much like, it's been described historically as what's called the underground river. It's this continuity of this energy that exists throughout time, that when you tap into it, can come to the surface and be available. And so, the mystery schools in our particular lineage, like I said, has been around for thousands of years and has come to the surface at different times. So, for example, in the Renaissance, that was a time when much more of, these teachings were available, and people were seeking them out. And so that Renaissance of consciousness, these leaps in human understanding of things, is very much what the mystery school energy frequency supports. It supports that awakening, that new ways of understanding. So a lot of really key people throughout history, those who've been very instrumental in helping move forward human consciousness and breakthroughs in understanding of things. Like one of my favorites is Isaac Newton. He was a mystery school initiate. He was an alchemist and a Kabbalist, and he's most well known for his scientific principles. But the reason he came to develop those scientific principles was from his understanding that came through his spiritual work. So his understanding of Kabbalah and alchemy is what allowed him to look at things differently from the people of that time period, right? And it was like, well, wait a minute, I can see things from different angles. I can understand, how gravity is working, and to even name something like that, right? And so it was very much this kind of awakening frequency that helped him see and understand and produce the work that he produced.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if you've had other people say this, but now that I know the language, I can tell which people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's true.
Yeah.
I did one of my undergraduate degrees was in music, and I studied classical music, and I always loved the music of Eric Satie. And I was like, there's something about his music. And I later found out that he was also a mystery school initiate and higher level initiate, and and so he brought that into his music and what he would create, and because it expresses something different. It's very different from what so much of the standard.
Right, and
that's
now
out there.
I hear, I'll see a quote from somebody in the past that was very influential with changing human history, and I'll be like, oh, I see where you're coming from. I see it now.
Yeah.
I absolutely see.
And that's that underground river.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.